Hi there. Welcome. Today we are extracting poison ivy. I've got two sections of my yard where it repeatedly turns up, and I chose to do this without the use of herbicide. And now that it's become sort of a routine, I feel comfortable to share my results with this method because I think it's very successful depending on what you're after, depending on your goals, and depending on your space. For me, I just have those two patches, and when I started, they were fairly overgrown, so it took a lot of initial effort to get it cleaned up, but repeatedly doing this process, I've observed that it is less and less every year. So this method isn't low maintenance by any means, but it is very straightforward and simple and free and non-toxic, unless you're counting the poison ivy itself, in which I am immune, and I know up to a point that can end, so I take it extremely seriously the entire time. I'm very thorough with my exposures and with my cleanup, so I'll share that as well, whether you're allergic or not. To begin, it's very simple supplies. We just need a variety of plastic bags, depending on the size of the plants you're dealing with. A larger bag is better, but I've gotten away with using small grocery bags or small trash can bags, but even before then I was using large contractor size disposal bags. So depending on what you're working with, you may have to be a little more selective. Not up for negotiation, a dish soap or anti-grease soap. I don't use the ones with abrasives. I feel like while maybe that would be effective to remove, my fear is infusing it into your skin, and that's just not something that I'm after. So maybe not like a abrasive soap, but you definitely want a degreasing soap. I use just regular dish soap. The blue soap works really well. I didn't have that today, so I just used regular soap, and it will still work as long as the technique when you wash is right. I use reusable gloves this time. Sometimes I just use disposable gloves. Sometimes I don't use them at all. I use them as a precaution just in case the bag tears when I'm pulling, because dealing with brush, there is that chance. So I use just one more step of protection, but we're going to be thoroughly cleaning up after anyway, so if you don't have it, double bag it. So to begin, I analyze my space and choose the right size bag for the job. And if you have a dog, you're familiar with this method already. It's just like a poop bag, except huge. You put your hands in the bag, grab your poison ivy from the base as close to the ground as you can, and at this point I try to trace back even further. Because it is a vine, you may be able to get a few more sections of the vine that has created that runner. So find the base, pull that, see if you can continue to pull and trace it back as far as possible. Because the more you remove, the easier this will be over the course of time. So once you've got as much of the plant as you can, just in your hands, that's when you will use the bag to reverse it inside out and contain the bulk of the plant material without contacting, hopefully, yourself. And at that point, you maybe could get another use out of it if you feel comfortable turning it back inside out and grabbing another and doing it again. But maybe it's worth it just to throw that bag away at that point, because it is contained, and then you can safely put it in your trash can and you're not going to rub any of the oil on anything. So depending on how many plastic bags you want to burn through, you can use them as liberally as you like. When I first started and the patch was quite large, I am ashamed to say I went through a lot of plastic bags. I promise if you keep up with it. It won't be like that every time. This is the third year that I've done it, and it goes really fast now, and I used at most 3 bags. So don't feel like every time you have to do this, it's going to be a roll of plastic bags. Once you've got the bags contained, once you've got the plants contained in the bags, throw them away. Don't compost them. Don't burn them. This goes without saying, but that oil, once released into the air, is as harmful as it is when it's in contact with your skin. So just try to get it out of circulation. Don't add it to your compost. Don't put it in your yard waste bags. Just throw it in the trash. Don't expose anybody that shouldn't have to contact it. At that point, hopefully you've removed everything and disposed of it safely. Now to clean up as much as you can, any tools you've used, dish soap, scrub them. You need to be careful because anything you touch in your house, if that oil is on your hands, it will be on that surface as well. So if you grab the doorknob with your contaminated hands, that oil can stay active for a long time. So much later, when you're clean, you touch that, you can still be spreading that. And if someone is extremely sensitive to poison ivy, it's just not a good idea. So I'm really careful when I come in and out of the house, and I don't touch the faucet, I don't touch the doors, and in the sink you run cool water. You don't want anything hot, just cool water and that regular degreaser soap. The goal is to scrape off as much of the oil as you can. You don't want to rub it in. You're not trying to smear it. Think of it like any other grease, and just a light pressure to swipe it under the running water and rinse it off, and then thoroughly rinse. I do it a couple times, and then after, using a paper towel, I just one last pass, squeegeeing off anything I can. And it's hard to say because I have never had poison ivy reaction ever, but I think this method works extremely well and sets you up for the best success. Don't skimp on the hand washing. And then wash all your clothes. Once I'm done with this goes straight into the washing machine. I don't put it with any of my other clothes. I just dispose of it, run it, so I know I don't have to wonder later. Even after, I'm mentally going to feel like I'm contaminated, so I take a shower as well, which is probably overkill, but I just feel better if I'm immediately cleansed as deeply as possible after. But then, you should be done, in theory, for a while. This isn't something that you can just one and done. This is a process, so every few weeks, it's best to go back and check the space, and if you see little plants shooting up, repeat it. And the smaller they are, the easier it is. So start early, get them while they're small, and do it as frequently as you can. And that's over the course of years. Like I said, this is my third year doing this, and it is drastically reduced opposed to that first time, but it is something that requires constant checking. So that could be considered a drawback for some people, but to me, I think it's worth it because it's free, because it's in a place that I spend a lot of time anyway. It's not really hard for me. The cleanup is a pain, but if I were to be using glyphosate or herbicide, spraying that down, I still have to wait for it to kill that plant and then remove that as well. So the turnaround, much faster with this method. It's maybe not over, but you do get immediate results, which is great. If you're dealing with a more established poison ivy plant, it does get more complicated, and I don't have a demonstration for that, but I know the timing is just as important for that. If you are trying to kill a stump, it's best to hack it off and treat the plant late in the season. So instead of applying it first sign of spring, you want to wait until fall when the plant is starting to pull nutrients down to the roots And that's your best choice to effectively kill the entire plant, not just the surface. So if you have that unfortunate situation where your plant is quite large, sadly I can't relate, but I have done the research, and the poop bag method's not going to work for you. But there are options. And in those cases, I advocate organic as much as possible, but these are situations when safety is concerned that I'm happily going to endorse using a controlled spot treatment herbicide. No shame, I'd do it too. If you're struggling with this, I hope you can get through it. I know if you're persistent, it will eventually get easier, but feel free to reach out if you have any questions, if you have any other strategies that have worked for you in the past, or if you just want to say hi. Hope it helps. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. It's covered in blister beetles. Oh, I just touched my gimbal. As soon as I got here, I realized that this particular plant is covered in blister beetles, I think they're called. So hopefully that'll be enough to protect me from the poison ivy, but as well as from whatever those things do.